Hey everyone, it's Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I am an immigration lawyer and a former USCIS Adjudications Officer. So I wanted to come live tonight to answer your questions, but I also wanted to talk about H-1Bs. Excuse all the coughing. I am a little bit under the weather, trying to get a little better. But tonight I wanted to talk with you guys about H-1Bs. And again, if you have questions about your general immigration questions, you can feel free to put those in the chat. If they become too specific, then I am going to tell you that you need to schedule a consultation. I am not giving out legal advice. I am here to educate you and to help you understand the U.S. immigration system. And that said, I work with business owners and folks that are looking to hire people that have hired someone and they're trying to figure out the best visa category. And I also work with families. So if you are a family member, you're trying to get a green card or U.S. citizenship, we can also help you with that. We are live tonight on my Facebook page, our private Facebook group, as well as the YouTube channel, and of course, my buddies over here on TikTok. So we are still in immigration world. We are still in the middle of H-1B cap season. An H-1B application is an employment-based application. It is for employers who are looking to hire someone who is not a U.S. citizen. It is what I call the workhorse of the immigration, the employment-based immigration categories. It is best used when an employer has a position that is open that they are looking to fill, and that position requires a minimum of a bachelor's degree, and the individual that they want to hire has a minimum of a bachelor's degree in a related field. In a related field is super important. So if you want to hire someone to be a software engineer, the fact that they have a bachelor's degree in architecture is not helpful. That does not make you H-1B eligible. So if you've been following me for any length of time, I talk about H-1B all the time. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I go live Monday mornings, and I have been talking about H-1B season since probably about November of last year. As we gear up for H-1B season, as we're in the middle of H-1B season, as we go through the lottery of H-1B season, now we are at the second running of the lottery in H-1B season. So I generally talk about H-1Bs a lot. So if you qualify for an H-1B, you enter yourself into the lottery in March. They run the lottery at the end of March, and then you can file generally starting in April. And then your start date is not until October, which is a new fiscal year. The H-1B is great, but there are only a certain number of H-1Bs that can be approved every fiscal year. So your start date doesn't begin until October 1, because that is the beginning of the government fiscal year, is October 1. Government fiscal year runs October 1 to September 30th. So that magical number is 85,000. There are only 85,000 H-1Bs approved, new H-1Bs approved every fiscal year. So there are 65,000 that are approved for individuals that received a bachelor's degree, or the equivalent of a bachelor's degree if they got their education outside of the U.S. There's 20,000 specifically set aside for individuals who receive a master's degree from a U.S. institution. So that's how we get to our 85,000. USCIS runs a lottery. If you're selected in the lottery, then you can file your H-1B petition. This year, they ran a second lottery. A second running of the lottery is never guaranteed. So last year, for instance, they did not run a second lottery. The year before that, I believe they ran actually 3. It was either the year before that or maybe 2 years ago, but they have at one point run 3 lotteries. So it is never, ever a guarantee that we will get a second shot at the lottery. That said, that is for individuals that have never been in H-1B status before, or they were in H-1B status for 6 years and left the U.S. for 1 year. Then they need to go back into the lottery, okay? So what happens, what I want to talk about today for a little bit before I get to some of your questions are what happens when you get into the lottery, your H-1B gets approved. Yay, everyone's super happy. Your H-1B is approved. You're working at a company. Great, you're super excited. And for some reason, that's not a great fit. Or it's a great fit, but you find a company that you think will be even better fit. Can you change companies when you are on H-1B? The answer is yes. Excuse me. The answer is yes. You can change companies when you're in H-1B status. That new company that you want to work for must sponsor you for H-1B status. That new company must file a new H-1B application with the Immigration Service for you. That extension or that change of employer application does not have to wait until March. You do not have to enter the lottery for that. You can file that any time during the year. You only have to enter the lottery if it is your first time applying for H-1B, or like I said, you've been in H-1B for 6 years and then you've left the country for a year and then you're reapplying to be in H-1B status again. So if you are currently an employer and you have a job opening and your candidate is at another company in the US and they're currently in H-1B status, you don't have to pass on that candidate. You can hire that person as long as they qualify for an H with your company. And you can do that at any time during the year. I just had this conversation with one of my corporate clients today. So just keep that in mind, that you can switch companies when you are in H-1B status. That is allowed, but you will need a new H-1B application for that new employer to be filed on your behalf. So just keep that in mind, y'all. We've got a couple of questions. Let's see what's going on here. Someone is asking if they can ask a question. Absolutely, you can ask a question. Let me see here. What do we got here for questions? Hold on. Scrolling. Let's see here. What is prima facie in VAWA? Are they reviewing before they renew? That is probably a really great question, although it's not a great question for me because I don't handle VAWA cases. If you're looking to work with an attorney that does handle VAWA cases and you would like a referral to an attorney, feel free to pop me a message. I know some really great attorneys that do VAWA cases, and I'm more than happy to send you the names of a few attorneys that handle VAWA cases. Those just aren't particularly in my wheelhouse. My firm works with employers and families. So for employers, we help them once they find the right candidate, for a position. We help them make sure that candidate, when they start, they have the right work authorization in place. There are several different visas that allow work authorization. So my firm makes sure that they have the one that works best for their needs and for that particular candidate. We also work with families. So typically we're working with US citizens that are looking to sponsor their family members for green cards. So they're looking to maybe sponsor their fiance, their spouse, minor children. Remember, minor children in the US immigration world are under 21 and unmarried. I know for many, many other things in the US, a minor is considered anyone that is 18 and younger. But for immigration, a minor is anyone 21 or under 21 and unmarried. So if you are 20 and married, you are no longer a minor in the eyes of the US immigration system. So just keep that in mind. I also work with US citizens that are looking to get green cards for their parents. We also deal with lawful permanent residents who are sponsoring their family members as well for green cards. But unfortunately, my practice doesn't involve any VAWA. So that's also something that's super important when you all are looking to work with an attorney and looking to hire an attorney. Make sure that that attorney handles the type of immigration matter that you have. So I'm very upfront about types of cases that I handle, the types of cases that I don't handle. So just make sure that you are asking that question. You want to make sure that you are getting someone that you think can help you. Now, that said, just because someone may not have handled your particular case type before does not mean that they cannot help you, does not mean that they are not qualified to help you, and doesn't mean that they won't do, frankly, an amazing job for you. You know, you just want to make sure that you are asking that question and that you feel comfortable working with that person, okay, and their team. Another question, can someone do asylum? Can someone marry that person and get their green card? So the short answer to your question is I don't know. I believe that's from Y. Rosh. I don't handle asylum in my firm either. That is not something I handle. Asylum is a totally different immigration animal than what I handle. So I definitely thank you for your question, but I'm just not the right immigration attorney to even give you any sort of general information on that. Next question, can someone with a 10-year green card apply for his mom? So I guess here's my question. If you have a 10-year green card, are you interested in applying for U.S. citizenship? Because as a U.S. citizen, you can most definitely apply for your mother. Oh, thank you for the glitter badge. I appreciate that. So if you've had your green card for 10 years, you may honestly want to consider applying for your mother, because as a green card holder, you cannot sponsor a parent. So that is reserved for U.S. citizens only. And let me just kind of explain to you all, let me kind of go through what the family-based preference categories are. I think there is sometimes some confusion about that. So I really appreciate this question. So immediate relatives are U.S. citizens who are sponsoring their spouses, their children. So again, under 21 and unmarried, as well as their parents. Next, we get into what we call the first preference category. So that is U.S. citizens sponsoring their unmarried sons and daughters. So sons and daughters are 21 years and older. Okay. Our second preference category are spouses and children and unmarried sons and daughters of green card holders, so of permanent residents. So permanent residents can sponsor their spouses, their children, and their unmarried, essentially their unmarried older children, right? Anybody over 21 and older. Then we have married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. That's going to be our third preference category. And then we have brothers and sisters of adult U.S. citizens. So those are the categories. So when I hear that someone has a 10-year green card, my immediate reaction is, do you have any interest in applying for citizenship? Because if you do have an interest in applying for citizenship, then, we would talk about what that citizenship application looks like. And then once you become a U.S. citizen, moving to sponsor your parents. Immigration is not always cut and dry. Sometimes it's a slightly longer process than we would like to ultimately get where we want to go. But one thing I think my firm does really well is we talk to you and figure out where you want to end up, and then how we can hopefully help you get there. And sometimes it's not simply, as quick as, just making a quick filing. And you said, yes, I'm due for my citizenship. So you may want to really think about applying for your citizenship, and then, moving forward and sponsoring your parent. Hey, Bianca, how are you? Next question. How long your child that is a U.S. citizen and over 21 years? I'm assuming you're asking what are the processing times if you're sponsoring your child, the U.S. citizen and over 21. I have no idea what the current processing times are. The processing times are long. I can tell you that. I do not know what they are off the top of my head. When I'm working with clients, I always look up the most current processing times, so that when we are strategizing a case, we are not only strategizing how to get there, but how long it will take us to get to the desired result. So I do not know the current processing times. There is a whole drop-down menu and chart and, several websites that I always look at, that are run by the government in order for me to get you and to get my clients processing times. So processing times, unfortunately, I do not know off the top of my head, but I can tell you that nothing is going fairly quickly. I will say this about processing times and about getting things approved from the Immigration Service. The Immigration Service has a tremendous backlog at the moment. It's massive, right? It's massive. And they are really trying to work through it. So if you have a family-based case, meaning if you are trying to get a green card for your spouse, your parent, your child, I would recommend that you file now for two reasons. One is because of the backlog. The Immigration Service has been and is continuing to approve cases without an interview at the local office. If the case is clean, all the documents look good, the Immigration Service they have a discretionary policy to waive that interview. That cuts off time. That means you get your green card in the mail. It means you don't have to go to the local office. It means you don't have to be nervous about an interview. It means you get your green card in the mail and you keep moving on with life. The other reason I would say, if you are thinking about filing and you haven't, is at the beginning of this year, the Immigration Service released a proposed rule to increase the filing fees. This is important to know because the Immigration Service is what we call a fee-based agency. They run and support themselves based off of the filing fees that we file with them. So filing fees typically don't ever go down. They always go up. But before they go up, they have to give us notice that they are going to raise those filing fees. Well, we've had notice since the beginning of the year. And they've been very quiet about it. I haven't heard any sort of whispers about this new rule and when it will go into effect. But when it does, we're going to get very little notice, because that's usually how it works. We get very little notice at this point because the rule has been out there. The public has had an opportunity to make comments to it. At this point, all the agency has to do is reconcile those comments and then publish the rule in final and say, here's the date the rule will be effective. So don't get caught behind the 8 ball. I mean, we are at a point now where they are working so hard to get through this backlog. And as part of that, at least for family-based cases, for some of them, they are waiving interviews. So it is honestly a perfect time to file if you have not done so. Because when they stop the discretionary practice of waiving interviews and the fees go up, I suspect the processing times will get a little bit longer. And there's no way to pay that old fee. You're going to be stuck paying the new fee. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Let me see here. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. Was really H-1Bs and how those worked, and how if you are already in H-1B status, you have already gone through the lottery. You do not need to go through the lottery again if you are currently working with an H-1B employer and you want to switch employers. You can certainly switch employers. So, question: can you use a travel document for a vacation? It depends on what that travel document is. It depends on where you're going, and it depends on what your current status is, what your current situation is. So, the Immigration Service does have a travel document. It is called advance parole. That is the most common travel document that people sort of ask me about. Advance parole is typically going to be connected with a green card application, and it is a way for you to travel outside of the US while your green card application is pending. Now, what I do for my clients is I always apply for advance parole just in case my clients need to travel. But there are some situations where I recommend that my clients don't use that advance parole and that they do not travel. So, can you get a travel document? If yes, you can certainly apply for advance parole, especially if you have a green card application that's pending. If you have an adjustment of status application that is pending, you can apply for advance parole if you are here in the US. But that doesn't necessarily mean it is the best thing for you to use that advance parole. If you want to sort of talk through your individual situation, I would recommend that you schedule a consultation with the office, and you can do that using the link in my bio. But yes, there is a general document. It is called advance parole, and that is what many of my clients travel on if they have a green card application pending and they are currently in the US. Let's see here. And I'm going to stay on for maybe a minute or so longer if you guys have any questions. Let me pop over here and see if there are more questions. Let's see here. I don't see any there. Let me check YouTube for a second. I know sometimes those tend to come in a little bit slower, but I know most of my folks. Let's see here. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, y'all. I will be back again tomorrow evening, and we shall chat again. But I don't see any questions, so I will say goodnight. I am going to go have some dinner. Have a wonderful rest of your night. I will see you tomorrow, and we will talk about more things U.S. immigration, specifically employment-based immigration and family-based immigration. If you have super specific questions, feel free to click the link in my bio. You can schedule a consultation with me. That link in the bio also will take you to my website, to my LinkedIn page, where you can see my background, my history. I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I used to be a USCIS Adjudications Officer at headquarters in Washington, D.C. I am now a law firm owner and work with immigrants, getting y'all to the U.S. and helping you reach your goals. If you call the firm, you can do that as well. You can be reached at 954-903-1337. And have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Bye.